The fluorescent lights of the garage buzzed like a swarm of angry bees, casting a harsh glow over the oil-stained concrete. Jack Kessler's laugh cut through the air, sharp and cruel, as he leaned back in his leather chair, his Rolex glinting with every flick of his wrist. "You're just a greasy mechanic, Sarah," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "My son, Ethan, fresh out of MIT with an engineering degree, is gonna bury you. You're done here." The heavy steel door of Kessler Auto slammed shut behind Sarah Harper, leaving her in a deafening silence that swallowed the shop she'd poured 3 years of her soul into. 3 years of loyalty, of coaxing engines to life, of building dreams from sweat and steel, gone. Discarded like a rag soaked in motor oil. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. Her hand tightened around the wrench in her coverall pocket, its cold metal grounding her. This wasn't the end. It was the spark. Sarah stepped into the biting Detroit air, the city's pulse thrumming in the distance. The smell of burnt rubber and gasoline clung to her like a second skin. A reminder of the nights she'd spent whispering to machines when the world laughed in her face. Kessler thought he'd broken her, but he didn't know she'd learned to read an engine's heartbeat before she could spell torque. She didn't need his approval or his shop to prove her worth. She was Sarah Harper, and she was about to rewrite the rules of horsepower. 2 days later, as dawn painted her tiny apartment in shades of gold, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. A voice, thick with an Italian accent, crackled through the line. "We're looking for your chief engineer. Is this Sarah Harper?" The man introduced himself as a scout for Ferrari's North American division. They didn't ask about her resume or where she went to school. They wanted her designs, her sound, her fire. Sarah didn't hesitate. She sent them the prototype engine she'd been tinkering with in a rented storage unit. A beast she'd built from scraps and instinct. It was her symphony, forged in solitude. 48 hours later, a sleek black courier van pulled up outside her building. A man in a tailored suit handed her a package. Inside was a contract from Ferrari in a crimson racing suit. Her name stitched in gold thread, Sarah Harper. She ran her fingers over the stitching, a slow smile spreading across her face. Not because of the glamour, but because this was the first gear in a machine Kessler could never imagine. He'd called her replaceable, but Sarah was already carving her legacy in the shadows, one bolt at a time. Across town, at Kessler Auto, Ethan Kessler strutted into the garage like he owned the concept of speed itself. Fresh from MIT, his LinkedIn profile screamed, automotive innovator. But his hands were soft, untouched by grease. He didn't know a torque wrench from a breaker bar. Yet his father handed him the keys to the shop's prime bay. Sarah watched from a diner across the street, sipping bitter gas station coffee, the kind Jack Kessler had once banned her from bringing near his pristine showroom. Within a week, Ethan botched a $10 intake manifold, stripping the threads in a spectacular display of incompetence. Whispers spread like wildfire. Clients, Porsche collectors, Bentley owners, even the guy with the one-of-a-kind McLaren P1, started pulling their cars. They didn't go to another shop. They went to Sarah. She worked out of an old airplane hangar on the edge of Detroit. A cavernous space with no neon signs or polished floors. Just raw passion and cold steel. Every engine she touched became a masterpiece, tuned with the precision of a conductor leading an orchestra. Her clients didn't just leave satisfied, they left in awe. Their cars purring with a life they hadn't known was possible. Then came the video. A client, a tech mogul with a dead Ferrari 488, posted a reel online. The caption was simple: 3 dealerships gave up. Then she touched it. Listen to this. The engine's roar tore through the internet, smooth, guttural, a sound that could make your heart skip. The video hit 6.2 million views overnight. In the background, Sarah's coveralls were just visible, her hands steady on the machine. No name, no face, just her work speaking louder than any billboard ever could. The world started asking, who is she? In elite car circles, her name became a whisper, a legend born in the grit of Detroit's underbelly. Meanwhile, Kessler Auto was bleeding. Ethan had no answers, no skill, no soul. Clients vanished, and Jack Kessler's empire began to crack. Sarah didn't gloat. She didn't post about it. She let her work do the talking. Each engine a middle finger to the man who'd thrown her out. Then came the call. Jack Kessler's voice. No greeting. Just a rasp of desperation. Is it you? He asked. His tone cracking like brittle steel. Sarah let the silence stretch. Let it choke him. He tried again. Softer. Almost pleading. Look, Sarah, maybe we moved too fast letting you go. There's a way back. A way back? To the moldy locker room with no AC. To being called, sweetie, by clients who didn't know she could rebuild their engines blindfolded. She hung up without a word. Back? She wasn't going back. She was racing forward, and the finish line was nowhere in sight. Sarah's hangar became a sanctuary for those who understood machines. She didn't just fix cars, she resurrected them. Word spread, not through ads but through the roar of engines she'd brought back to life. A billionaire with a Pagani Huayra showed up, begging her to retrofit it. She didn't go to him. She sent her friend Marcus. Wearing an old Kessler auto jacket as a jab, Marcus walked into Kessler's shop, dropped off the Pagani, and picked it up later, now faster. Cleaner. A beast reborn. Tucked under the wiper was a note. She fixed what you never could. The client left a glowing review on Kessler's Yelp page. A delicious twist of irony. Jack tried to sue, but there was no logo. No proof. Just Sarah's excellence. Untouchable. Her waiting list grew to 6 months. Even Ferrari had to wait. But Sarah wasn't done. She wasn't just building engines, she was building a reckoning. Jack Kessler had laughed her out of his shop. But she was about to make him choke on that laughter. The race was just beginning. And Sarah Harper was already miles ahead. The Detroit skyline loomed like a steel promise, its jagged edges cutting through the dusk as Sarah Harper stood outside her hangar. The hum of a freshly tuned engine fading into the night. Jack Kessler's call came like a ghost from a forgotten past. His voice trembling through the phone. Sarah, is it you? He rasped. The arrogance gone, replaced by a crack of desperation. She could almost see him, pacing his polished office, his empire crumbling under the weight of his own hubris. Maybe we moved too fast letting you go. There's a way back. A way back? To the condescension, the sneers, the moldy locker room where she'd changed under flickering lights. Sarah's lips curled, but not into a smile. She ended the call, letting the silence scream louder than any words could. She wasn't going back. She was rewriting the rules of power. Sarah didn't need to shout her vengeance. She let her work do it for her. Each engine she touched a quiet act of defiance. Her hangar, a gritty cathedral of steel and oil, became a magnet for the elite. A tech billionaire with a Pagani Huayra, a collector with a rare Aston Martin DB4 Zagato, they came to her. Not Kessler. She didn't advertise. Didn't need to. Her reputation spread through the purr of engines that left her care faster. Fiercer. Alive. One client, a Silicon Valley mogul named Derek Vaughn, asked her to retrofit his $3 million hypercar. Sarah sent her friend Marcus to pick it up from Kessler Auto. Wearing an old shop jacket as a deliberate jab. When the Pagani returned, it didn't just run, it sang. Its exhaust note a symphony that made heads turn. Tucked under the wiper was a note in Sarah's handwriting. Fixed what you never could. Vaughn posted a 5-star review on Kessler's Yelp page. A dagger of irony that cut deep. Jack tried to sue, but there was no trace of Sarah's name. No logo, just her brilliance. Untouchable. The offers started pouring in. A producer from Velocity Network called, voice brimming with excitement. We saw the Ferrari video. 6 million views. Sarah, we want you for a show, queen of horsepower. You'd be a star. Sarah paused, her hand tracing the edge of a torque wrench. Fame was tempting, but this wasn't about cameras or applause. This was about precision, about justice carved in steel. Not yet, she said, hanging up. She wasn't here to play their game. She was building her own. The real stage came in the form of a sleek black envelope. Gold lettering glinting under the hangar's dim lights. The Redline International Engineering Duel, a $250 prize. A contract with 5 elite brands. And a chance to humiliate your rival in front of the world. Jack Kessler entered his son, Ethan, of course. He still believed pedigree trumped grit. That an MIT degree could outshine raw talent. But when the second name was announced, Sarah Harper, the crowd at the Detroit Convention Center buzzed. Phones lit up. Whispers turned to roars. Sarah walked onto the stage in her oil-stained boots. The same ones she'd worn when Jack fired her. Ethan paled, his eyes darting like a cornered animal. Jack's jaw clenched so hard it might have cracked. They hadn't known she was coming. Ferrari did. They were her sponsors. Their logo discreetly stitched on her sleeve. The rules were brutal. Design, build, and optimize a supercar engine in 36 hours. Live. No teams. No help. Just you. Raw parts. And the clock. Ethan wore gloves, his hands shaking as he Googled torque specs. Sarah didn't. She felt the metal, her fingers reading the engine like a blind poet reading Braille. While Ethan fumbled with misaligned cylinders, Sarah sculpted airflow, her hands steady, her focus unshakable. Her engine didn't just purr, it roared. A primal hymn of power. By hour 35, Ethan was behind a privacy screen, tears streaming as a piston shattered under his amateur calculations. Sarah's engine sat flawless, its RPMs climbing in perfect cadence. Zero vibration. When the clock hit 0, the judges fired both engines. Ethan sputtered, coughed, and died. Sarah's redlined, a beast unchained. The crowd erupted. The judges didn't deliberate. They handed her the trophy and 5 handshakes from brands that ruled the automotive world. Flashbulbs exploded. Reporters swarmed. Who is she? They demanded. Sarah turned to Jack, lifted the trophy, and said, I'm just a mechanic. Remember? The words were calm, but they cut deeper than any scream. The crowd roared, but her eyes were on Jack, watching his empire crumble in her shadow. Sarah didn't stop there. She opened Harper Performance, a shop that wasn't just a business, it was a revolution. Half her crew were dropouts, kids overlooked like she'd been. The other half were women engineers tired of being interrupted mid-sentence. They didn't just fix cars, they created art, trained minds, rewrote rules. The shop's motto was simple: earn it or burn out trying. Sarah bought Kessler's old shop, the one where she'd been mocked, and turned it into Harper Performance downtown. The oil stains remained, preserved like fossils of arrogance turned to ash. She held a reopening event. No invites needed. The lot overflowed with street racers, engineers, even a YouTube gearhead who'd once called her just another pretty face in coveralls. They saw the plaque on the wall. To every girl told she wasn't strong enough to hold a wrench. You were built for this. The city ran a feature. Comments flooded online. She didn't burn it down. She bought it out. Kessler Auto filed for bankruptcy protection. Ethan moved to Nevada, teaching online auto theory courses to pay the bills. Jack, rumor had it, drove by Harper Performance sometimes. Windows up, head low. Then came the email. Subject line: I owe you an apology. Jack's words were clumsy, choked with pride he couldn't swallow. At the end, he offered her a job, lead consultant. Sarah replied with one line: I don't consult for liars. Then she hit delete. Months later, Sarah stood backstage at the Detroit Automotive Summit. The theme: Future Titans of Engineering. Once, they wouldn't let her park in their lot. Now, she was their keynote speaker. The lights hit. The room hushed. She didn't talk about revenge. She spoke of resurrection. Of engines that stall and the hands that bring them back. When she finished, the crowd stood, applause thundering, but her eyes went to one seat, row 3. Aisle, reserved for Jack Kessler. Empty. In the parking lot, she found his car, a dusty 2007 Aston Martin he used to brag about. Inside, an envelope with 3 shaky words: You won. J. Sarah tucked it into her glove box, next to her first spark plug, and drove home. Not fast, but steady. She wasn't running anymore. She'd built something no one could take, a future forged in steel and second chances.